to the conversation with Rick Lanham, and I'm Nick Robinson as we continue our series on talking about the 12 steps and the journey to recovery. Now, today, we start on step number 7 after having gone through, of course, steps 1 through 6 with a little pause 1 week to talk about prayer and how it relates to recovery, but also to each of these steps as well. Okay, Rick, why don't you hit us with what is step number 7?
Step number 7 is humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings.
Now, what does that mean? Break it down for me. Put it in simple terms for me.
Last week, Sean hit us, and the book that you've got in front of you said that this was the one that separates the men from the boys, or the women from the ladies, or the girls, whatever that might be. I think this is the one where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, because this is where, if we kind of look back at everything that we've done so far, we go from talking about it to kind of really getting into everything that we've talked about so far. We've admitted that we were unmanageable. We've admitted that we were powerless. We've turned our will and our lives over to the care of God. We've examined our moral, fearlessly examined. We've confessed. And then, like Sean said, I was ready. But now we've got to this place where it's kind of like we're on the operating table, so to speak, and then the anesthesiologist comes and says, "You ready? Are you really ready? Okay." Yeah. Count backwards from 100, and you go 199, 98.
And then you're done.
And it's time for the surgeon to come out. And so I look at the first and the last word. Humbly and shortcoming.
Yeah. In the book that as I read through each of these steps, it's all about the humility. So what is it about that word that stands out to you?
Well, pride comes before a fall. I mean, we look at that in Scripture, and I think back to my own walk, my own journey. Most of the times when I've had a struggle, I go back to early on in our conversations, and it was the I had a problem. And it was isolation, and I'm fine, I'm okay, and I wasn't. So I was lying to myself. And so there's a fine line between humility and humiliation.
Yeah.
And so humbly, I would say, I had a sponsor that said, "What step are you on?" And I said, "I'm stuck on 7."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, why are you stuck on 7?" I said, "I've asked him to remove my shortcomings. I asked him over and over to take these shortcomings away." And he said, "Read the first word. Read the first word." I said, "What are you talking about?" I've asked him. He says, "No, you're telling him. You're not asking him, you're telling him." He said, "You've got to humbly." And so I went back and I thought about that, and I ended up in the book of James, where it says, humbly go to the Lord, and he will lift you up. Well, he can't lift you up if you're not down. So, we talked about this in step 5, confess your sins, and you will be healed. So both of those. So I think about that space, the number of times that I've been with an anesthesiologist, it was one of those complete spaces of surrender.
Yeah, because you can't control that. You don't know the anesthesiology. You don't know the medicine. You can't stop the medicine from working once it's in you.
Once I'm out, I'm out.
Yeah.
And so once I get to this, like Sean talked about, I'm completely ready. It's complete surrender, and I had to have complete humility to say, okay, perfect example. So step 7, shortcoming. Today I was at a convention center in Indianapolis. It was time for me to leave to come here. Great experience, Christian conference. I'm humming in my head. I surrender, blessed assurance. I've got all these great, joyful mountaintop experience. I'm getting ready to leave the room that I was in to walk to my car. It was freezing cold in the conference room. Had on a short sleeve shirt, okay? I walked out the door, filled with joy, excited, walked out the door, warm Indiana, a little humid, but I'm still excited about it. Walked out, so nice and sunny, felt so good. I was excited about it until I looked up and realized where I was. I was on the complete opposite side of the convention center, on the complete opposite side of Lucas Oil Stadium. Probably had
And it's a big place.
Probably had the longest walk that I've had since I had my knee surgeries.
Okay.
Still, it was warm. I'm thinking, I got this. I looked at my watch. I had plenty of time to get to my car, get the drive, get back down here so that we could have this experience. Still humming in my head, still humming in my head. That's a great thing on this side of my heart. Okay?
What was going on the other side?
Well, on the other side, I was about a third of the walk through. I look up. I've got Victory Field on one side. I can see Lucas Oil Stadium. I can hear practice going on. It's an open practice. They let out. Sidewalk starts to get crowded. It starts to get crowded. It gets more crowded. I'm starting to flash back to when I used to run these streets for mini marathons. A little do everything without grumbling or complaining starts going through my head. I'm still singing on this side. I got grumbling and complaining. So this is a little shortcoming starting to kick in. I got this war going on. I've got this little Romans 7 thing going on, that which I like to do, but I don't. The very thing that I hate. The story of the two wolves that we talked about kicks in. I have this war. Is that a shortcoming? The further I walk, the more I start to sweat. Then all of a sudden, I'm still humming this little tune of praise and worship going on. I got this grumbling or complaining going on. So now I've got this war. Is that the shortcoming? Or is it a moral defect? Or is it a defect of character? Or is it a little bit of both? No matter what it is, the closer I get to my car, I still see how far I have to go. My knees are starting to hurt. Now my hips starting to hurt. I got this war going on inside of me, but still, I'm still the same guy. But I had this conflict going on inside of me. Now I'm still singing Blessed Assurance and I Surrender All, but I'm not singing it nearly as loud as I'm doing this grumbling and complaining. Now I've got some expletives going on in my head. I don't really want to say them out loud, but I'm thinking them louder than I'm singing. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, are you thinking about getting an Uber, or you're like, okay, I'm just going to get a car to get me to my car?
I'm just explaining to you what's going on, but these are shortcomings. But deep down inside, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say to you when I get here, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm stuck on step 7, and I've got to go explain this to Nick right now. What I really want is I want to have this removed. But this is what I do because I'm having a staff meeting in my head, and I'm thinking, do normal people do this, or is this just because I'm still an addict deep down inside? And then I'm going, all right, Rick, you've got to figure out a humble way to explain this because otherwise you're going to get on this podcast and be totally humiliated. There's the difference.
And so the humility is being able to just ask for them to be taken, not demand that recognize that maybe it takes time to have the shortcomings removed. It doesn't happen on our time frame. And then it's also recognizing, even like in these small moments of walking to our cars, like that the shortcomings, the personality traits that we're least proud of still pop up, and they're still there to be dealt with.
And then to be able to put it in a context that says to you, I work these steps every single day, all day long, and this is all part of the ongoing journey of humbly asking Him to take these defects of character away. But then again, I just use them interchangeably. It's part of who I am as a human being. Yeah. But it's really a shortcoming. And I do it all the time.
Now, can you define shortcoming for us? Like if someone's thinking, okay, what would if I was going to make a list like this, or if I was going to ask for the shortcomings, if I was going to humbly ask for these shortcomings to be removed from my life, what kind of shortcomings would I expect to be removed? Because I think some people would say, yeah, I'm a grumpy person, but that's just who I am. That's not a shortcoming. That's my character, and that my character is fine that way. Like what are the shortcomings that might go to the list first? Because I kind of assume that as you work these lists and as more shortcomings are removed, then you find new ones like that were hiding underneath the bigger ones that you find to pray for to be removed later.
I think one that comes to mind very quickly is anger.
Yeah.
I mean, Scripture says, be angry, but do not sin. One of those is, well, are you quick-tempered? And, we can take a deep breath, count to 3, step back, and control that. Or are you really quick-tempered and you don't have control of it? Can you manage it? Do you have the ability to step back and react rather than just right away? And I know people that can't control their anger. I know people that have had anger issues in the past, and yet you would never know that because they just have a mild, cool, calm temper, and they're gentle-spirited. And you would never know that because of the way that they deal with people on a day-in and day-out basis.
And so those are the kinds of changes that can come. Let's pause there and let's bring out our guest, Lisa, to guide us through some of the rest of this conversation.
All right. Sounds fantastic.
Welcome back to the conversation as we continue to talk about step number 7, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. Lisa is here to talk to us today. Lisa, our first question is always, why did you say yes to being here and to being part of this conversation?
I was taught that whenever given the opportunity to share my hope, I should be ready to do so.
Now, when you were taught that, did you envision an occasion like this arising?
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
That's one of my favorite things about life, and especially about faith, is that when we say yes to God, when we say yes to these things, we don't know where the path leads us. And I think that's a beautiful thing about faith, even if it's sometimes a scary thing. So we're here to talk about step number 7. And I love to ask people, what was hard about step number 7 for you?
Step number 7 for me was about all of the underlying reasons why I needed recovery.
Okay.
So I came in for a reason, but once I had gone through steps 4 and 5 and realized, a lot of what I've gone through is of my own making, and a lot of the struggles are related to what's underneath what brought me in. Those are the things that this step covers.
Okay.
6 and 7.
So if some of those earlier steps are talking about almost the symptoms of something that's going on, 6 and 7 is looking more at like the underlying causes for those symptoms. Is that kind of fair to say?
That's how I looked at it. And I learned that from going through steps 4 and 5. In other words, what was my part in what led me down this road.
And so 4 and 5 is like, okay, these are the things that I've done. And then 7 is like, okay, I'm going to try to release the things that have led me to doing those things. Through this, all this, it just seems like if I was going through this, I'd be fearful. I might be anxious about talking about some of these things with sponsors and even acknowledging them to myself. Was for you in your process, was looking at the results of the underlying conditions more terrifying? Like, these are the events that have happened, or these are the reasons that have been part of those events? Like, was one of those harder or easier than the other?
The events were hard.
Okay.
But I think I tended to blame my symptoms on the events instead of looking at my part.
Yeah.
So when you realize that you have certain personality traits or character defects, so to speak, then it's time to clean up your side of the street. So, for example, the events for me had a lot to do with grief, and I felt like I had the right to stay there in that grief.
Because grief is natural. Grief is healthy. Like, if we don't address grief, then grief can bring problems, but it's also maybe we use it to justify other things.
Right, right. And then, so I chose to medicate my grief, and that was the justification because this happened, this happened, this happened. You do this too, right?
Yeah.
But after I got through step 5, and I was pretty OCD about it. I did it 3 different ways because I didn't want to miss anything. And I discovered that my top defects or character defects or traits, if you will, included pride and fear, resentments I didn't even know I had. Anger, my anger was more internalized.
Okay.
And so that caused some depression. And then self-pity was a big one. And then approval addiction, which is somewhat, it's like a type of codependency.
Okay. Now, when you talk about those traits that came to the top for you as you went through this process, were any of them surprises?
The resentment was.
Okay.
I didn't realize I had a resentment towards God until I did these particular steps, and that was surprising to me. And after I worked through it with him, I realized that my resentment was misplaced.
Okay.
But he helped me get to that point.
Yeah. So, what was the experience like for you going through this? Like, what were the practical steps that are like? So, step 7 says, "Humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings." Is this? I have a list and I have a prayer. What does it actually look like to go through step 7?
What I had learned is that I need to really kind of do a 4th step on each of those character defects.
Okay.
Okay. So let's take pride, for example. If pride kept me out of recovery to begin with, pride could also keep me from doing this step as well.
Yeah.
Right? So I decided that what I need to do is see if I can practice the opposite of this list that I just gave to you. So, for example, pride, the opposite is humility, right? Or fear, the opposite is faith and trust. Self-pity, the way I could manage that would be gratitude and make a gratitude list and focus on the good. Approval addiction, worried about what other people think. Now I'm more concerned about what God wants for me as opposed to what other people think.
Yeah.
That one's a hard one for me still.
Yes.
What else did I mention?
Anger.
Anger, right. And the depression. Well, that really self-pity kind of falls underneath that umbrella, so to speak, I think.
Okay.
What's the antithesis for that?
What do you mean?
You said practicing the opposite.
Okay, so that means I need to depend on a power greater than myself. And that's when the prayer comes in.
Okay.
That's when I admit, almost like in step 3 where you turn your life and your will over to him, I have to turn my will over to him on a daily basis or an hourly basis. So that requires me to pause and allow that power to come in because I do not have it on my own.
And so you have to be conscious of allowing that power to come in.
Yes.
Especially in the beginning.
Yes, yes. And then the more you practice it, the more you will lean that direction as opposed to the direction you used to lean to.
Okay, so we've hit some things that I think people can understand how to do. So we talked about letting God's power come in to us, being aware of that, and leaning into God. I think we can picture ourselves at the top of every hour, just drawing our attention to God and be like, okay, God, be with me in this hour. You talked about a gratitude list. That's a really concrete thing to do. What about humility? Like, are there other concrete ways to practice humility to oppose that pride? Because I think pride is one of the things that we wrestle with a lot, just as human beings. What are there practical steps to practicing humility, especially with avoiding the humiliation, like Rick pointed out earlier?
Remembering from whence you came and realizing that hanging on to pride keeps you from healing.
Yeah.
So when I think about humility, I have a little book called How to Be Somebody.
Okay.
And it's all about humility. And if anyone's interested, the author's last name is Mendes, Mendez.
Okay.
But it will help you to think differently. And what I try to do is focus on who my higher power wants me to be. And so if my higher power is Jesus Christ, then I picture him washing feet. And I picture him serving.
Yeah.
And I want to become more like him. And he is meek and humble. So when you use the term meek, I think about strength under control.
Okay.
And when I'm out of control, I'm not being meek.
Yeah.
And I can't be strong in my own will, but I can ask for his power, and he will help me to be strong there.
Yeah, because Jesus, stood up to evil.
He did.
Right?
Yes,
Jesus
he did.
was a powerful person, healing bodies, setting people free from demons. Jesus, in his humility, wasn't ineffective. And so I think humility means lowering ourselves to the point where, we think we're nothing. But that wasn't Jesus's position.
No, not at all. In fact, it takes courage to come in here, right?
Absolutely.
And you asked, why did I say yes? I prayed about it because part of me, I'd rather hide.
Yeah.
And it takes courage for me to be public about the things I've gone through and who I am. But as I'm becoming through this, that it makes it worth it. But also it requires some humility on my part to even be here, because that's not my go-to.
Yeah.
My go-to is not to look how far I've come. My
Yes.
go-to is to run and hide.
Yeah.
So I think it looks different for different people. It depends on what they're struggling with.
Yeah. I think sometimes humility is believing other people in what they say about us. And what I mean by that is sometimes people see strengths in us that we don't see. And so for someone to say, your voice would be valuable here, it's actually more humble to say, I trust you that my voice would be valuable, and instead of saying, you're wrong, my voice is not valuable here. That's more of a actual prideful position to claim that your perspective trumps someone else's. Yeah,
It's interesting.
I think of that. So I'm a pastor. I'm a preacher. I think about that in relation to preaching a lot, like what it means to stand up in front of people and be willing to say something that is hopefully of value to them, without being but I'm always right. What is the way that we humbly offer ourselves and insight or wisdom or lack thereof to people so that they can then take it and grow on their own.
One thing I have said a lot is that the more I learn, the more I realize there is to learn. And that helps to
absolutely.
keep me humble, and it's true.
Very much so. There's a journey to all of it. And when I teach Bible studies, especially, I just taught one this week, and I'm like, guys, there's two different sentences in this one paragraph, and I have no idea what they mean. There's a long history of interpretation for these verses, and some people are just really confident they know exactly what they mean. I do not find it satisfactory, even though I know a lot of ways other people have understood it. And so just the more I learn about what other people have said, the more I'm like, really? What are all the options that are out there? So what advice would you give to somebody who's either on step 0, thinking about recovery, or just working on step 7 now?
It's worth it. The advice would be to, if they've come this far, because it takes a while to get here, but if they've come this far, this is the point where we need to decide, are we going to buy into this fully or not? And so when I think of shortcoming, it's where do I fall short? Yeah. And what's the standard? And if I look at my higher power as the standard, then I realize how far I have to go. Yeah. And so to stop here is to miss the miracle, honestly. Oh, wow. I've heard it said that acceptance is not really possible until you've done these steps, 6 and 7. And so, we can heal to a certain point, but then if we don't go through this we don't go further, we're missing a lot more that I think our higher power has for us.
Yeah. So it can be good even up until this point, but it can get even better.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
And I know, I love how you said it takes a while to get to this point. One of my daughters got a summer homework packet, and she came home and she did it all in a few days. You know, this is your whole summer project. Like, these steps are not like, oh, I'm going to rush through them. I'm going to get them done in 2 days because I'm going to be the all-star. Like, this is serious, time-consuming, like, simmering work. Like, we marinate in this for a while. So I'm thinking about shortcomings. Have you witnessed some of these shortcomings become strengths in your life? Like, what effects have you seen of acknowledging the shortcomings?
In myself?
Yes, in yourself. Or if you want to talk about someone else, because it might feel not humble to talk about how much progress you've made, right? But
I'm
maybe
so proud of how far I've come, right?
Yeah. But there's got to be some kind of healthy sense of pride. Like, I have made it this far, but I also have a distance to go. Like if you can't celebrate how far you've come, at least a little bit, like I just feels like it would get very weighty. Is that right? Is that wrong?
No, that's true. I think the exciting thing is we can live two lives here, right? Our life before recovery and our life in recovery as a journey until the end. Because we're never going to be perfect. And there's always something new that I feel like God will present to our hearts that we can grow through and grow into and become what he had planned for us as opposed to what we thought we had for us. So for me, I can tell you that I had gone through 2 divorces and so felt like a failure in that respect. And I suffered with a lot of infertility, years of infertility, and I lost 3 babies. And then I started medicating my pain. After the last loss, we lost twins at 17 weeks in the womb. Oh, wow. And so all that hurt. And then, so I was defined as a twice divorced, infertile alcoholic. And today, I am a redeemed, restored wife of almost 27 years, mother of a beautiful child that we adopted from Guatemala, and have been alcohol-free for almost 21 years. Wow. And I consider myself a child of God. So if I feel like someone is pointing their finger at me or judging me, I remember today I'm a child of God. I am, and if somebody brings up my past, now I'm thinking, that's not me anymore. Yeah. And so that's becoming somebody completely new.
That is power. Thank you so much for sharing that. I hope people hear that and are just inspired by like the new life that is possible. And I think it's not too late to start on today, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. Like, it's not too late to start. Right. Thank you for joining us for this part of the conversation. We're going to pause again, and we'll be right back to wrap up. Thank you, Lisa. As we come back together to wrap up step 7, what stands out to you so far? What do you want to mention about this step?
There were a couple of things in that conversation that jumped out at me. The first one was when Lisa talked about the becoming process and that it's a journey. And, I think I shared with you that my word for 2026 was becoming. Whether we're becoming a better father, a better man of God, a better teacher. You talked about becoming better at preaching and encouraging, whatever. But, whenever I read any of the AA literature, the 12 and 12, or any of the 12-step literature, there's always talking about what we were like, what happened, and what we're like now. And she mentioned her gratitude list, and it reminded me of what Joe had said in step 4, was just making the list. Yeah. He looked at it, and before he even got very far, he just looked at the list and went, I'm not that guy anymore. And he just marveled and just went, and it just reminded me of so many times when I've just gone to a speaker meeting and heard somebody give their story or give their lead.
Okay.
And as they're giving their story or giving their testimony, so to speak, they're like so grateful that how far they've already come. And it's not out of pride, but they just recognize that just going through the steps has made them a new person. And just the steps themselves make them different than they were.
And hopefully there's some people hearing this that are saying, okay, I'm ready for those steps. I'm ready to start today on working on the thing that I'm going to be able to look back on in a month or 6 months or 2 years and be grateful already for because of the changes.
The other thing that she said that struck me was to get this far, the first 6 steps. It's like, the promises say, if you're painstaking about this phase of your development, you get halfway through, which is the first 6 steps. You get halfway through, you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. But to get this far and not get to this point and pray, God, please just do something. Take these shortcomings. Shoot, take half the shortcomings and see what happens. Take half of them, and I'll be much better. If you just take even half of them, I'll be better off. And then if you take them all, but to take half of them would be a marvelous, marvelous thing.
I think even if you could take my biggest shortcoming, and we might have to take a vote on what that is for me to be sure which one it is. But even if you took just the biggest one, it would be such a change in life.
Right.
One of the things I'm taking away more and more from these conversations that we're having is just how lucky we are to talk to so many people. And if you're listening to these, watching these, hopefully one of the things you're picking up as we go through this is more empathy and more love towards people. Even if the 12-step material is a little far-fetched for you, or like you're having trouble connecting to it or whatever, like it's the people and the stories that are just valuable and hopefully helping us understand just even people in general.
Well, people in general, and the fact that everybody's hurting and struggling with something. So have a little bit more grace, a little bit more kindness, and be gentle not only with them, but be gentle with yourself.
With yourself, absolutely. Well, why don't we wrap up our conversation there on humbly asking him to remove our shortcomings. This has been Nick and Rick. It rhymes. It's match made in heaven. As part of the conversation, our table talk around the 12 steps of recovery. We hope that you have enjoyed the series so far, that you're learning and growing through it all, and that you'll keep joining us each time as we keep going through these steps. Thank you again so much for joining us.